Being a coach for the past 20 years, I've had the privilege and opportunity to work with over 7,000 guys, helping guide them to get in the best shape of their lives and ultimately learn how to sustain it using the principles that we teach at the True Transformation. In today's video, I want to pack in as much of the maybe less known fat loss advice that I think will make a huge difference in your day-to-day in under 20 minutes. So let's see if we can do it. Ultimately, fat loss starts and ends with being in a calorie deficit. I don't need to spend a lot of time on that, but so many people still get this wrong. They think that there's some magical meal plan or some magical supplement out there that's going to all of a sudden get them lean when they're not tracking calories. They have no idea how much food they're eating. And when they actually take a week to track all the food that they eat, they realize, yeah, I was eating too much food and I need to drop my calories. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just want to preface this video by saying if you're not in a calorie deficit, the chances of you losing fat are a big, fat, whopping 0% because you do need to burn more calories than you eat if you want your body to tap into body fat. So now that we got that out of the way, I think it's important to understand there's some little strategies that might be considered bro science. So things that aren't exactly proven in the lab or in scientific experiments that have helped me a lot. One of the things I would say is, I love walking and I like walking at a low to moderate pace. I know some people are super into the step mill. They're super into like high incline walking. They really want to sweat. They want to burn a lot of calories. I like to play the long game. I find that I lose body fat so much more effectively when I just go for leisurely walks throughout the day. And I usually cap my day with a walk. That's one strategy that I see nobody, except maybe my man Kino Body, talking about recently, where yes, fasted cardio is a popular way to start your day, right? You get up, you do some kind of movement, whether it's walking, elliptical, the bike. Sometimes people go for jogs in the morning with no food in their stomach, thinking I'm burning more fat because I have no food in me. And while yes, you are tapping into fat at a higher rate for fuel, ultimately your body will balance things out for the rest of the day and you'll end up burning more carbohydrate storage throughout the rest of the day than you do fat, simply because the body is just really smart and it's gonna do what it does in order to keep homeostasis. So fasted cardio is great. In fact, I do a lot of fasted training myself. I typically don't like to eat before I go do a weight training session, for example. I just feel better without food in me. But for cardio purposes, I like walking leisurely throughout the day. Typically a midday walk to kind of crush that early afternoon lethargic, want to take a nap kind of feeling, followed by an evening walk after dinner, typically with my wife or kids. We're just taking the dogs out for one last walk for the day. I find that I lose body fat way more effortlessly when I just do leisurely walking. Running or more high intensity cardio tends to jumpstart my appetite a whole lot more. And so when you're in a deficit, there's going to be this thing I call controlled hunger. And controlled hunger will ultimately be just a part of the game. You're going to have some times where you want to eat food and it's not necessarily time to eat. And so I like to walk to ward off appetite, but I know that if I go and run, I'm going to be a lot hungrier. It's going to be a lot harder to stick to my diet. So I like walking throughout the day. Super, super important. The second thing is what I call a controlled cheat or treat meal. We eliminated the word cheat meal, I guess, at some point along the way because cheat is a bad word, right? But treat meal sounds a whole lot more positive and more fun, and it sounds like something you don't have to be guilty for. So, the words we use do matter. And so a treat meal is something that I like to throw into my rotation on a pretty regular basis, just depending on where I am with my fat loss goals. A treat meal, for all intents and purposes, is really just a mental break. It's not necessarily going to help you lose fat faster, but it might just help you stay on track more because you gave yourself a break from having to say no to the appetizers, the desserts, whatever it is that you normally have that's going to put you out of a calorie deficit. Typically though, I don't like to have a weekly treat meal. Typically it's every 2 weeks, or I just allow life to tell me when to have a treat meal. For example, if it's a birthday, well, okay, a birthday is a time to celebrate, so I would say a treat meal makes a lot of sense there because ultimately you're not going to not enjoy life. It's way more important to celebrate with friends. And yeah, I want it to be controlled, meaning I don't want it to be an all-out binge session. I would say a restaurant meal, something like an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, maybe a drink or two. Great treat meal lineup. Or it could be something like, hey, it's date night and it's been a couple weeks, and so I'm gonna have my treat meal then. It could be a big game that you want to watch with friends, or a fight night like UFC or something like that, right? But the thing is, it can't be too often because it's just so easy to throw yourself out of a caloric deficit if you're constantly having treat meals in the name of enjoying life. But I do like to throw them in there. And once again, this isn't like a refeed or what people call like jump-starting your metabolism or keeping your body guessing and all that. It's literally just a mental break. Like, we don't need to complicate it. It's like, enjoy life, dude. Get back on track the next day. That's how we stay in the game of fat loss for a long period of time. We're not in a rush. There's no race. We have all the time in the world, but we still want to hit our goals at certain intervals. So ultimately, it's about how fast you want to get there, and will it make sense to just push through some of those days and not enjoy life, or just stick to the meals that you do enjoy that help you stick to a calorie deficit. The next thing is my meal rotation. So I've talked about in videos past, this is one thing we help our clients do inside of our program, which, by the way, if you're interested in learning more about the True Transformation, you can check out the description below. I put some information there for you that will tell you all the next steps you can take. If you're a guy over 40 who's got most of his life figured out, but just hasn't been able to master the body game, the description below will lead you to the next step along this path that we can help. This 5-food rotation strategy is something I started to realize I do without really it being a thing, right? I just noticed that there's basically 5 foods that I create my meals with that I like to just have in rotation. And for me, and this could look completely different for you, and this is something we help our guys customize inside of our program, but for me, it's typically eggs, beef, chicken, potatoes, Greek yogurt, fruit, and that's pretty much it. Like, the only things that change are how I combine these foods with different like miscellaneous foods. For example, sometimes I eat potatoes, sometimes it's rice, sometimes it's tortillas, sometimes it's sourdough bread. But the main part of the meal stays the same. So the beef is always there, the chicken is always there, the eggs are always there. It's just sometimes I'll do eggs with tortillas. Sometimes I'll do eggs with English muffins. Sometimes I'll do eggs with sourdough, but the eggs are there. So like when I'm out of town, this is when it gets really important to have these meals or have these foods, because I can go to restaurants and I can get these exact same foods pretty effortlessly. Or I can go to the grocery store and it's like, I know the 5 foods that I gotta have. What am I gonna combine those with to hit my calories? I know it sounds almost like too easy, and that's the whole point. Like, this whole thing isn't supposed to be crazy complicated. At some point, you're just gonna have to go, okay, my meals are gonna be pretty straightforward most of the time. Will they taste good? Yes. Will I learn how to make them taste a little better over time? For sure. But I'm not gonna make these extravagant 20 ingredient meals every single time. In fact, rarely will I do that. It's, let me stick to the same stuff. And then going back to the previous tip, which is the treat meal, the variety comes in from life just happening. And then sometimes we'll be like, all right, I'm craving a burger. Okay, my beef this time is gonna be made into a burger. I'm gonna put it on sourdough bread for a bun, make some potatoes on the side, just double check the calories, I'm good to go, right? And eventually over time, you're gonna be able to eyeball your food. So fat loss just gets easier and easier and easier because you know what to put in your body. And that's the whole point of this. You have to track, earn the right to just eyeball. And then anytime you feel like you're not making the progress you want or you're falling a little bit off track, then you always can lean back into tracking. But once again, if you have your go-to foods, you're not trying to track 30 different things every day. It's just your simple, go-to, delicious, and easy to prep meals that you're used to having all the time. Now, I hired a coach back when I was overweight and out of shape because I knew how to, at the end of the day, I knew the basics. I knew how to get in shape from a basic standpoint. But for me, I wanted to avoid mistakes so that I didn't waste a lot of time, right? Wasting time is wasting our most valuable asset. So I didn't hire a coach to tell me to eat healthy. I didn't hire a coach to tell me, hey, you gotta work out. I didn't hire a coach to tell me you gotta move more. Like, those things I knew from just studying the game. and understanding that fat loss happens when you are in a calorie deficit. I hired a coach to keep me accountable, all right? And I wanted to be around people who were successful when it came to their fitness goals. So people out there watching this who will be like, oh, I'm not gonna pay to be told something I can find for free on the internet. Well, yeah, I wouldn't tell you to pay for information either, right? What I would tell you is hire a coach to keep you accountable and to make sure that you actually do what you say you're gonna do. You gotta hold yourself to a higher standard. I mean, if coaching wasn't a big deal, wouldn't we see all these athletes who are making millions of dollars? I mean, they're the most incredible athletic people on the planet, and yet they pay for coaching all the time. I mean, LeBron James, whether you're a fan of him or not, he has a multi-million-dollar budget every year just for coaching, just for nutritionists. Does he know how to do this himself? Yeah, he could easily eat healthier. He could go work out. He could shoot. He could dribble. He could do all the things that he's born to do, but he hires coaches to keep an eye on things, and he invests for years. Truthfully, I think the reason why we're seeing a lot of these athletes stay in the game longer is because they have coaches. Now, coaches aren't there to get the glory, right? As a coach myself, my goal is not to be the guy who gets the accolades and who gets the praise. My biggest victory in life with coaching is seeing you succeed, right? And I learned this from some of the greatest coaches in the world. When I finally hired coaches back in my mid-20s to really take this thing to the next level, I was, really struggling to lose weight and to keep it off. When I hired coaches, it shrunk my learning curve down. It basically collapsed time. What would have taken me, 5 years to figure out got shrunk down to 5 months, okay? Not only that, but I was able to then avoid losing my progress, okay? Backsliding. So let's just say it took me 2 years to get in shape. Okay, well then let's say I spent the year after that backsliding. So now I'm 3 years in the hole versus 5 months of coaching, 3 months of post-coaching, metabolic repair to learn how to do it properly, and then paying someone an amount over time just to keep me accountable. It saves you so much headache. I can't tell you how much headache it saved me. And by the way, it's transformed me from just somebody who wanted to be in shape to someone who is passionate about helping others do the same. So maybe there's something there for you. Maybe there is a passion project waiting for you on the other side of getting healthy and fit. And maybe it has nothing to do with fitness. Maybe it's just, hey, at the end of the day, I want to be the best version of me. I want to be a better coach. I want to be a better leader. And you know how you become those things? You learn from the best, right? You learn from the best. So I'm not telling you to go hire me. I mean, hey, if you're interested, you can check out the link below. But there's a lot of really good coaches out there. There's some terrible ones too. That part sucks. But there are a lot of really good ones that might be the perfect match for you that can save you so much time, so much headache when it comes to this whole fat loss thing. So there's a lot of other fitness tips. I would say that another one for me is sleep. I did a whole video on sleep. If you go back to the channel, there's a sleep protocol that I recommend. But sleep for me just comes down to controlling my energy and my appetite. You can focus on so many things with fat loss. You can focus on your meals, your protein, your calories. Those things matter for sure. Your steps per day, staying strong in the gym. But sleep, man, that's one of the most important things in my day. If I don't get decent sleep, man, I'm a wreck the next day. And when I say I'm a wreck, I mean my appetite gets just completely jacked up, right? My cravings go out of control. My discipline and willpower, they shrink down. I lose the discipline. I lose the willpower that I would normally have. And it sucks because I remember when I was younger, I used to power through the days that I got no sleep. I'd go out late. I was young, didn't have any kids, meeting up with friends, doing the whole thing. Then I would get up after 4 or 5 hours of sleep, no problem. Hit the gym, power through, and go to bed whenever I wanted, right? Can't do that anymore. I have 2 kids now. I have a wife, I have a career, I have a demanding schedule. Even though I try to stay balanced, sleep is so important. So for me, it's about a sleep schedule. I'm not necessarily a super early person. I'm not a 4 a.m. guy, and maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But whatever the case may be, whether you're more of a late night person, I like to get work done early evening after the kids are kind of wound down. I spend some time with the family. I'll knock out a couple little things. Then me and the wife will typically lay in bed, watch a movie, watch a show, hang out, talk, and then it's bedtime, like sleep time for me. Typically read for a few minutes and then I pass out. That happens anywhere from like 10:30 to 11:15 at night, okay? My body now naturally wakes up around 6. Sometimes I'll lay there for a little bit longer. I'm not an alarm person because I know in my head, as long as I'm out of bed at a certain time, my morning routine's good. But once again, I'm not aiming for this crazy morning routine. For me, it's about quality and quantity of sleep. So quality sleep, meaning I'm not woken up throughout the night. Quantity, meaning I need at least 7-ish hours, okay? For me, that works. Whatever it is for you, you just got to figure that out. It might be 6 hours, it might be 8 hours. There's really, I don't want to say there's a right or wrong here. There is a minimum amount I would suggest. It's about 6.5 hours of sleep, but you might be able to function just fine on 6. I know plenty of people, successful people, who function great on 6. I would say anything less than that, you could be impacting your health. But ultimately for me, sleep is just one of the most important things when it comes to fat loss. Okay, so I promised to keep this video under 20 minutes. I hope this gave you some just insight into how I think about fat loss. The last thing I'll tell you is you need a system, a daily checklist. You know, I'll leave you with one of my best tips, and that is have a literal checklist that you hit every day. You know, if you don't have a system right now for getting in shape, you need one. You know, keep it simple. We call ours the 3M system. It's movement, muscle, and meals. All we're worried about most days is just hitting those things, right? And hitting those things not perfectly every single day, but 90% of the target that we set for ourselves most days, all right? And this keeps the fitness part of our life simple. You know, there's so many things that complicate our lives, from work to kids to family to issues, drama, blah, 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 right? It's all part of just the game of life. But someone who is a faith-based person, I don't like to complicate anything in my life. I have my beliefs. I believe. I do, my due diligence with my faith, meaning I go to church, try to get active with people outside the church, read my Bible, pray, and tithe. Those are like the simple stuff that I know is going to keep my faith and my family and just my walk in life with God where I want it to be. No different with fitness, okay? I call myself the simple guy, right? Because I have so much else that I want to spend energy on. I'm a creative person. So it's real easy for me to just go, oh, let me try this, let me try that. That doesn't work with fitness typically. The more simple, the better. The more I go, oh, okay, I'm gonna lift weights, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna hit the food that I need to hit. Now, the complicated part comes from us, right? We need guidance. I need guidance just like anybody else to avoid overthinking, to strengthen my mind, to become a better version of me throughout the process of taking care of myself, right? And so I would just say, if you don't have a daily checklist, have one. It'll just change the game. Write it out the night before. What am I gonna do tomorrow? What are the foods I'm gonna eat? What are the steps I'm gonna take? What are the workouts I'm gonna do or not do? Just have it on paper, have it in front of you so you don't overthink this thing called fat loss. Well, hey, I appreciate you watching this video. Let me know in the comment section if this one helped. Let me know if you need any questions answered when it comes to fat loss, because I've spent the better part of 20 years working on this game, finalizing my final product. And I don't know if we're ever an end finished product when it comes to our bodies, but it's important for us to play the long game. And so I'm here to help you do that. Life moves fast. I want to help you make it count. If you're interested in learning more about the true transformation, check out the description below. There's some more information and steps you can take to start transforming your body today. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Life moves fast. Make it count. Talk to you soon. Peace.